Yo, what's up? It's your boy E.T. Welcome to another edition of Mass Impact, the educational podcast. Now, look, the reason why I started this, I truly believe that education is the way to close the gap, the wealth gap, the digital divide gap, the opportunity gap. Look, the American dream gap. Can I be honest? Everybody's not experiencing the American dream in the way it's supposed to be experienced. So the reason why we started the Mass Impact, the educational podcast, is to close that gap. Now look, mass is simple. It means motivate, actionable steps, which means what? We're going to give you strategies every week. So we're not just going to motivate you and inspire you, which is important, but we're going to give you actionable steps. And look, it's a support system, y'all. Thus Mass. It's your boy E.T. Now you know. Let's go.
Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy E.T., man. Somebody said to me the other day, E, you act like, you know, when you wake up in the morning that it's a good day. I said, it is. I woke up. I woke up like that. It's a great day. You know what I'm saying? Any day alive is a good day, and you got to go in that school with that energy. All right? Like one of the things I want y'all to know before we get started, recently you heard Katie say you're a star, and I believe that. So if you're a star, you give light. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get light. You let the sun reflect off of you, and then you reflect to the, you can't go into the environment and look for the environment to give you something. You have to have something before you go in the environment, and you have to give the environment that thing. All right, so that's important. So I don't go into a space and go, what's the energy here? I'm gonna embrace their energy. No, I'm bringing the energy in the actual building. All right. So we're talking about mass impact. That's it. And listen to the word impact. Our job is to impact, not necessarily in a negative way, be impacted. All right. So super excited. We're here to motivate you as always. Look, I don't care what they tell you. Take motivation out. You don't need motivation. All right. Take motivation out of marriage and see what happens. Take motivation out of a partnership and see what happens. Take it out of two business people that can't stand each other. Take it out. Now, I'm not saying it's everything, but I'm telling you, it's the start. You can't start without it, okay? You can't start without it. So we're here to motivate you, encourage you. Stay in the classroom. Stay in the school. All right? Don't leave. All right? We need you. But we need some steps, though. We do need a GPS system. What's step one? What's step two? We're going to try to do that for you. And then finally, like lean on us, all right? When you need someone to talk to, lean on us. You got the emails, whatever, talk to us. We can come to your school. We're so excited, man. We've like literally been to schools, literally have made impact, and we look to make more. So if you're interested in us doing a PD, interested in us coming to your school, bringing our programs to your school, man, reach out to us, and we look forward to being there. All right, Katie, as always, we got a phenomenal topic. What are we talking about?
Yeah, and I'll just say we do have an email that people can find us at info@massimpacteducation.com. So they can find us there for sure and reach out. So we've been talking about teacher effectiveness, increasing our effectiveness in the classrooms. We're going to round this series out by talking about one initiative at a time. So this might be a good one for our admin or for some of our staff that want to send this one to their admin. How do we make sure that we're making big impact, but one impact at a time? Or one initiative at a time.
This one hits home. This one hits home. And it hits home because I've had so much success lately, but I've had to fight my natural inclination to have so much on my plate, so much on my plate. And I was able to get with Anthony Flynn a couple of years ago, and he's like, yo, E, you got to do one thing, Now you can do three things, but still one thing, and you need to put generals under that thing to be able to. So it's like, if you don't have generals, you don't have people that can really take it and take off and not need you all the time, like it's not going to work. And that was very difficult for me, because he gave me 3 as a stretch when I probably had about 30 ideas, But, we actually made the New York Times bestsellers list because we literally went hard for 2.5 years on one thing. Like literally the process started 2.5 years before the book actually came out. And I had never done anything like that in my life. And just to see the success that it had and having. Like we had Germany, Korea, Brazil. Like we've had countries reach out like, yo, we got to take that and turn it into. And so so as a recovering do too mucher at one timer, right? As a recovering addict of doing multiple things, I actually trusted somebody enough to do one thing. And I saw that one thing will have a long shelf life than a lot of the initiatives. I just started 20 of them and really didn't get any of them done, right? So I just want to encourage y'all as we're talking today, for those of you who do too much, I encourage you to listen and figure out what's the system that you can use to really do one thing. And listen to me. You know, Anthony Flynn had to tell me this. I'm not telling you to kill all the other 29. I'm not asking you not to think of the other 29. I'm just telling you to write them all down and do one at a time. When you finish one, go to the 28th one. Then you can go to the 16th one. But he was just like, Eric, you're not going to be successful if you're doing 50 things. You're going to every year be going in circles, like on a hamster wheel. Like you're not going to ever get anything done. So please listen. Then there's a group of you who don't move because the one thing has to be perfect. And so you never move because you're waiting for that perfect opportunity, perfect time for that thing to happen, and it's not going to happen. So the two groups we're talking to today, you do too much. And you say, how do I know I'm doing too much? You're not getting the outcomes that all those things should be. Like, you're not where you should be if all those 30 things was popping. If all those 30 things was happening, you're not financially where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a billionaire if all that stuff was supposed to be happening. You wouldn't have some of the stress. You wouldn't have some of the losses you have. All right. The other group, how do you know? Because you're still stuck in the same spot year later, 2 years later, and you keep saying when it's the right time, and the right time hasn't happened for you yet. Right. So those are the two groups we're talking to. I don't know who wants to start us off, but how in the world, with so much going on at a school, do we do one thing at a time?
Yeah, well, let me just jump in because I think, for me, I'm growing in this area. I'm not in the schools anymore, but, I spent a lot of time in the schools, and I'm taking what I've learned in the schools and building it into champs. So managing over 20 mentors, 400 kids, 15 schools, what I'm realizing is, what are the priorities? How am I communicating that as a leader? And then what are the roles and responsibilities attached to it? And I have different young men at different levels, different stages in their lives. And one of the young men, he called me the other day and he said, man, I'm just, I feel like I'm just taking L's in every single category of my life. And he was like, how do I figure out what I want? And it seemed like a very simple question, but I was like, I don't have the answer for you. That's something that you have to sit with yourself and figure out what is a priority for you, right? And then what are the goals that you're going to write down to ensure, here we go, that we do one step at a time. And that's exactly what I told them. You may have a bunch of goals and a bunch of different priorities, but you have to answer that for yourself and then figure out, okay, this is step one. Do I need to reach out to somebody? And then I talked about another thing, accountability. Like, your self-accountability is the weakest form of accountability. You have to find a support system to hold you accountable to the things that you say you're going to get done. And I think, listening to that and hearing his feedback, he was like, I got it. He said, so Monday, I'm going to show up on time. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And I said, it's an easy way to measure it. And it's objective. There's nothing subjective about it. Either you show up on time or you don't. And you assess that and you make adjustments. So I think, I'm learning and growing in this area. And I know for teachers, it can be so many things thrown at you. You got to get lesson plans turned in. You got to do extra meetings. You may have to do recess duty. You may have to do lunch duty. And it's like, but I'm an English teacher. I just want to focus on my curriculum and these objectives. So I think that's where you have to sit with yourself and realize, all right, there are some priorities. I want to take advantage of what I have here. And if I have to outsource and ask for help, I'm willing to do that as well.
Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that. Let me help, help you guys. For those of you who are listening, I call it the, for me, my bowling pin experience, right? So I'm a decent bowler, like I can get up to the 170, 80 mark, but it all depends on me being able to place that ball on that first pin and the one you got the middle one and then that one to the right. So if I can get the ball to hit that first pin and that second pin to the right, that's how I normally get a strike, or I have two left and I can knock those two out. So what am I saying to you? If there are 40 things you feel like needs to get done, if you really prioritize and like strategize, put those 40 on the whiteboard somewhere, like, and really, I call it the Olivia Pope. You know what I'm saying? Like, Scandal. Yeah, I remember when I watched Scandal, one of the things I love most about Scandal was she would get an assignment, and she would put that assignment, on that wall and bring her squad in. And they would spend a large majority of the time just really looking at it and getting intel. Like, what are we looking at? And oftentimes, for those of you who grew up, where you had to fight a lot, you realize if you got a certain person, the other people was there with that person. They weren't really courageous or strong. They just was with. And so if you knock him out, they like, oh, I don't want no smoke. So I'm coming to realize that there are times in life, if you hit that one pin will knock other pins down. And oftentimes for a lot of us, we work on pins that won't bring us the greatest results.
Yeah.
You got to look at a return on your investment. Yeah. I knocked this one out. Look, I knew if I can get that PhD, I just knew the work that I was doing. I was at a major university. Like, I wasn't in K through 12. I was at a major university. It's all about pecking order. Like, there are doors that open for you with a PhD that will never open. I don't care how deep you are as a master's teacher, professor. It's just certain doors. I was like, yo, if I can get that PhD, that's going to lock a lot of doors are going to open for me. I knew New York Times bestseller. If there's 40 things I need to do, if I get on that list, 20 things are knocked out. 20 things are no-brainers.
Yeah.
I don't even have to do those. So I'm telling y'all, a lot of you are struggling because you don't understand the power of priority and you misplace, well, I'm going to put this fire out. Listen to me. And whoever's next, get ready. So y'all know I didn't grow up with my biological father, but we eventually built a relationship. And he was a paramedic for the fire department, right? Chicago, right? He said something to me once and I was like, wow, that's dope. My father said that even though the fire department's responsibility was to take out fires, that they didn't take out every fire. He was like, yo, that might sound crazy to y'all, but he was like, yo, we only had so much water and we only had so much resources. So if somebody called us with a little small fire, we didn't go over there to put that little fire out. Like, we just didn't do it. But if they call us at a municipal building, if they call us at this is a building that affects the city of Chicago, we going to knock that out. So if two houses call in a municipal building, downtown call, unfortunately, it's not that we don't love them or care for them, but we don't have enough resources to take out every fire that happens in Chicago every single day. We don't. And so we legitimately have to strategize which fire is going to save the most people. And I'm not just talking about lives. You're talking about paperwork, you're talking about data, you're talking about computers, computer systems. And I thought that was weird. I was like, what? You mean to tell me if I call, you're not going to come? He was like, some houses got burned down. They did not. We didn't go in. We didn't. So I think for many of us, we have to learn the art of every fire can't be taken out. And every fire can't be taken out by me. And I literally, y'all, I hate to say this, I'm not proud of it, but my blood pressure was like, for a minute, the doctors was like, yo, we don't know what's going on. We're going to have to, but something. And I literally let something go the other day and went to my blood pressure was the best it's ever been. It was the best it's ever been. God was like, you're gonna have to let that go. That's not your responsibility. You're gonna have to let that go. I know you care. You're seeing it burn. You're hearing people scream and holler. You want to go and save them. But bruh, you got a whole world that's watching you and needs you. You can't get consumed with 2 or 3 people's lives. You have lives to protect. And right now, you stressed out. You're not sleeping well. You're not at your best. Goes back to what you said, Sam. It's not either or, it's both and. I got to take care of myself to take care of, and I'm just being real. This is something that's been a problem for a minute. And I keep trying, and God's like, let it go. Just let it go. And I let it go and went to the doctor, and they was like, hold up, we about to check you again. You sure? You know what I'm saying? They like, this is the lowest you've been. You sure? We're going to check your other arm. And I was just like, yo, I've been in the one, honestly, I'm not proud. At the bottom, 112, 110. That's ridiculous. It's supposed to be 80s, 88. You know what I'm saying? And it's the first time I went to the hospital, I went to my doctor, and it was like, regular routine, and boom. Then it was like like my blood work. It was like, okay, E, it's we got some concern. Went back. They was like, oh, your levels went back down. You good. They'll come back to a year. And God was like, because you're trying to take out fires you shouldn't be taken out. And now it's affecting you. So some of y'all got to learn the art of all those 30 things. Some of those 30 things you need to pass on to other people and let them do it. And some of those things you need to do, but they don't need to be a priority. And you need to take care of those things, right now. So that's just as a recovering. Hi, my name is Eric Thomas. I'm a recovering do too much addict, do too much for people addict. As a recovering addict, I'm telling you, I have learned that you gotta pick your battles. And just because there are 30 fights, you can't jump into all 30. You have to strategically pick your poison. So that's mine.
I love that. That is so true, E. And I guarantee that everybody on this screen right now, battles with that and can relate to that. And many and most of our followers, I'm sure, can definitely relate. Mm-hmm. And so it makes me think about actually at the beginning of this year. So there's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. Yeah. And so that's something that we read at the beginning of the year. And we were challenged to choose what is the one thing that you are going to focus on this year, to your point, E, so you can really focus and leverage the extraordinary results. And so it had me thinking back to the pandemic. I was like, during the pandemic, there was a lot of stress and anxiety and worry, and around this time, and it made you shut down like a lot of things that were going on in your life, right? And so, and focusing on less things, at least like that's what happened for me through a portion of that time. And so I think about how for us, we have our Coffee with Show Me the World project. And so we're like, we got to work on the branding, we've got to work on the marketing. But throughout the course of the year, it's like we're taking students to Costa Rica. We're running the curriculum over here. We're doing this, we're doing that. Wow. We're doing a million things. And during the pandemic, we said, 2 days a week, we're meeting about this one thing. And this is all we're going to talk about. And that's what,
That's brilliant.
And then in a year, it was done, right? Whereas like it may have taken, a couple years to do it before that. But I think, pandemic or not, that's what forced us into that place. But pandemic or not, what is that one thing that you are going to block time out, right? To really work on and to really focus on. And it goes back to school leaders also. Like if you have a million different initiatives that you're rolling out to your staff, like there's just not enough time to be able to do every single one of those efficiently and effectively. And so thinking about, going back to what you're saying, E, about the strategy, like there's got to be strategy though of what is the one thing. And it takes a lot of time and thought and reflection. Like you said, Vandell, like you have to figure that out. I can't determine that for you, but you have to think, what are my end results? What are the outcomes I'm looking for? And what is that key lever that I can focus my time on to achieve those results.
I want to ask that question because I want to let's make this a working session.
Yeah.
For the next few minutes, let's make it a working session because people are struggling.
Yeah.
So, let's Vondell for you, or, Katie for you.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, man, there's a lot. Maybe you can mention okay, here were 3 things, but here's the one I chose and here's why I chose it, so that we can help people process, how do you go about, doing that? And then what kind of results did you get from it?
Yeah. I mean, when Sam said we're all probably nodding our heads to this, I'm trying to learn as you guys are talking, because I don't even know if I could call myself recovering in this area. I'm still, I will say, struggling with trying to do all the things. And I'll tell you too, my husband and I had a very honest conversation last night trying to problem solve some of this stuff. And he said, I feel like we're living paycheck to paycheck with our time. He was using the concept of paycheck to paycheck with our time.
That's big.
Because we're just trying to do we want to be the best parents, and we want to be really successful at our jobs, and we want to serve our church and have a good relationship with each other. And oh my goodness, right? It's hard to do all the things. So I'm just start with that I'm still recovering for sure of we're trying to figure that out. I don't have all the answers of how do we get ahead of the time that we spend, and it's priorities, like you're saying. Yeah, I'm learning, sometimes it's I want somebody else, like you said, Vondell, to look at my list and tell me which things to focus on, right? Because it's hard because they all feel important. So it's very hard. So that's just my own personal, I'm still working.
No, you just answered it though. You answered it. You said it. And I hope y'all caught it. One of the things that I had to sacrifice, and my wife did a phenomenal job of it. My wife just told our kids, look, I'm not going to be mom of the year. I'm not going to be mom of your life. So let's just establish that right now. I'm not taking you to soccer. I'm not taking you to basketball. If you go into soccer and basketball, your dad's going to take you. I went to college to be a nurse. I'm about to be a nurse. I'm not sacrificing being a nurse for y'all to get boyfriends and girlfriends and get married and go off and live your life, where now y'all gone and my whole life was surrounded around y'all, and now I'm empty because y'all got married and moved on. Because once y'all get married and move on, you're not going to be coming to my stuff every day. So my wife just told my kids at a young age, I'm not trying to be parent of the year. Now your daddy might, because his daddy wasn't in his life. So he might feel like he got to fill the void and be there for everything. I'm not going to be there for everything, but I will tell you this. You will have your school clothes washed. You will have your uniforms done. I will make sure you get to school. I will put money aside if y'all want to go to college, but I can't do everything. I'm not super.
Oh, we lost him for a minute.
I want to make sure y'all caught that. Katie said it. You cannot be great at everything.
Yeah.
And you have to make a decision on what you're going to be great at. And look, this might be too much for some of y'all, but I told my wife this week, because we too had that, our worship experience in the morning, pillow talk, whatever you want to call it. And I just told Didi, I said, man, I love you, but I love my job. I love my work. I do. I love my work. And I'm not about to quit no time soon. And I just got to be real about it, because the old me wanted to lie and go, I'm going to retire and I'm like, yo, I can't do it. I can't go to Mexico for 3 weeks and do nothing. I just can't do it. So let's talk about when we are going to be together. And then I got to make a decision when we're together, not to work when we're together. So no phone calls, no work, whatever. But I'm going to do this work. I'm going to get this Nobel Prize. This is what God called me to do. So what Katie just did that I think can help a lot of you strategize is just know you can't be great at everything, and you can't get involved in everything. You just can't do it. So you have to decide, what am I going to be great at? And what am I going to get involved in? Get rid of all the other stuff. And then once you get that, then now we got to take that and strategize that. Vondell, talk to us. One thing, how did you get to that? How did you get there, bro?
Yeah, it was really raising funds for a curriculum specialist for CHAMPS. And I know it's just we already have a curriculum. And I'm saying, I can't make the curriculum, run the curriculum, do programming, and try to be a CEO. So the sacrifice was we got to do one thing, but our curriculum is our core. We got to have solid curriculum. And then we wanted to make sure that we were training in that curriculum and supporting our mentors as they're going into these schools, because most of them are not educators and not teachers. And the outcome of that has been tremendous, because I had somebody who was in the schools running the CHAMPS curriculum. He resigned from the schools. He's running for alderman now, but he didn't leave his experience behind. So now he's the curriculum specialist and running weekly meetings every Wednesday. And I'm there, I'm learning, I'm taking notes from him. And it's been so powerful that way versus in years past, me trying to lead it, me trying to coach everybody and trying to, raise funds and be a CEO. And I'm telling you, when I was able to make that a priority and take that off my plate and say, this is going to help you in the long run, help you sustain your energy so you don't have to feel like you're doing everything. Man, it's been wonderful. I'm loving it.
I love it. So
I've been pretty quiet. And I'll tell you why. Transparently, I'm not a believer. I'm believer adjacent, and I think that kind of comes out in a lot of the things that I do. I think that, like, when I think of books like The One Thing or even Essentialism, which I think is the newer one, I'm just like, man, like, these are great concepts. And I hear people, gravitating around them and, kind of regurgitating them. But sometimes just being transparent, it just doesn't seem like a real thing to me. I think like some people are mothers, they are CEOs and wives simultaneously. And and even for, like, if we think about, for God and creation, like, he's not one thing, and so it's sometimes for me, it comes across as like a thing that we say that sounds really good, but is it the truth? Is it real? And at the same time, you see people obviously that are having tremendous success with it. And so for me, evidently still a struggle point, because I think to actually
absolutely,
you got to believe in the thing. And, but I think that if you had options about what to do, what to become, and if you could choose to be the type of person who could only focus on a thing, I think that if that's you, it's an incredible thing to be able, to adopt.
Yeah, that's good.
If you're able to.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this podcast is transparency. So I'm going to walk y'all through it. Yeah, I'm going to walk y'all through it because I wasn't a believer. Philosophically, I wasn't a believer, but to Vondell's point, I was losing, and I hate losing.
Right.
I hate losing. So I'm like, I don't care what your philosophy is, you losing, and I'm going to be honest with y'all. I wasn't personally losing. I was losing being on a team. Like, we not where I think we should be. So I'm losing because I'm like, we too gifted and talented. Like, something's wrong. And so I was like, you're gonna have to submit to it's gotta be a different philosophy, So I'm gonna walk you guys through it. So for me, it was one thing. It was one thing. And one thing doesn't mean that you necessarily are only doing one thing all day, every day.
Right.
That's not what it means. It means that there's one thing that you're gonna give 120% to. It means there's one thing you're gonna set boundaries for. So let me explain to y'all. When I started the writing process, it was no calls during the writing process. It was no calls. There was no interruptions. Don't call me. Don't talk to me. It's about a 2-hour process in the morning. Don't talk to me. Don't call me. Don't say nothing to me. CJ, I need you to be super duper ready. If I call you and say, hey, do you remember that? I need this for the book, whatever. Carl, if I call you and ask you a question, whatever. Didi, if I call you and ask you a question, I need you to be ready. I put 120% in one thing, and I went all into one thing. After the writing process for an entire year, it was another year of marketing. That never happened to me before. It never took us 2 years to do nothing. A whole year to market. So you talk about one thing and one thing right. I've never done that before. I don't do one thing, then I definitely don't do one thing right. So it's like, nope, we're going to do this the right way, and it's going to take time. I was like, okay, cool, I submit to it. In the midst of the process, I was told, yo, this dude is the best dude because your publishing company is not going to be responsible for getting you on the New York bestseller. That's not what they're responsible for. They're responsible for printing a book and putting the book out. It's like, all right, cool, 30 grand for my man. I get with him, he tells me, hey, you need a team. I get with my team, they like 15 grand for all the stuff he tells us to do, 15 grand. I've just spent $193,000 and I haven't gotten a dime from it. One thing, I'm putting all my energy, everything into the one thing. Okay, book comes out. I don't even know if we're gonna make it. I gotta do podcasts. I don't even do people podcasts. One thing, you're gonna get on this podcast and you're gonna talk about this one thing. I did it. Got on all these people podcasts, blessed up. I didn't have to get on a plane, go do no talk show. I didn't have to do a road tour. Did the one thing. Let me show y'all something. I did one thing, y'all. I literally went from charging $75,000 to $200,000. I charged an additional $125,000 a gig from doing one thing. I love what you said, Katie. I told my wife, I said, here's the deal. I promise you 20 gigs this year, 20 gigs at 200. I'm going to give you back 20 weeks. I'm going to give you your time back. So 20 weeks out the year, you're not going to have to worry about me being on the road. And if we go on a trip, it won't have a gig attached to it. So I won't have to, you know what I'm saying, do no podcast, then go speak. So I just bought back 20 weeks of my time with a book. Now we have more advancements coming in because these other countries want the book. So they give me an advancement, then they're going to sell the book. So now 4 other countries. So I call my boy John Maxwell. They people like, don't do that, E. We got our own publishers that are also in those spots. Let's see if we can barter you a better deal. One thing, I just said John Maxwell. I'm with John Maxwell and a whole bunch of other people. Why? Because now I'm in the New York Times bestsellers list club. So there are a group of people who are in the New York Times bestsellers. Now they're getting me opportunities and looking after me because I'm in the club now. I did one thing. And I did the one thing that I felt like was that first pen, that if I knocked that ball down, knocked that pen down and that pen down, it would knock the other pens down for me.
That's good.
Finally, just got off the phone with one of my homegirls who has her own online university. We just did a curriculum that's a class for the book because it's a New York Times bestseller. She like, yo, E, we're going to do a class.
Yes.
Got it. So we're going to do a class around the book. That is going to bless me with another few $1,000 times students, which once I finish recording it for the 16 weeks, then it just plays on its own.
Right.
So now we have something, and John Maxwell told me something deep. One pen, y'all. John Maxwell said, Eric, you probably got another 20 books in you. I need you to do me a favor. I need you to stop speaking. I need you to stop writing. Start writing. I need you to write every day, and I need you to produce books. And I said, why? He said, because nobody takes a 50-year-old message off the, nobody takes a 50-year-old message off the shelf, but they take a 50-year-old book off the shelf. He said, E, your messages are powerful, but nobody's going to be listening to them 50 years from now the way they listen to it now. He said, do me a favor. Go look at the top selling books on any platform and see who's on there. And I looked on there, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like you look on the top selling list, as a matter of fact, one of the top artists who came, like R&B artists, whatever, that came out with like the best albums, why were they tied for Michael Jackson? I said, Michael Jackson got the most sold albums in 2022. He's still most played on Apple. It's unbelievable. So a lot of us are doing the temporary one things or 50 things. Start doing the permanent one thing. I'm gonna say it one more time. Many of us are doing the 30 temporary things that you got to keep doing every day, every month, every year. They don't last. It's something about the temporary stuff that it takes more of your energy, more of your time. But this one thing just got me up. Sam, Barnes and Nobles couldn't believe I lived in Lance. They're like, you in Lance? And I was like, yep. They was like, look, we want to be like the other big dogs. Can you come do 2 signings during holidays? I was like, yeah. It's like, look, this is what we'll do for you. We'll do a deal with you. You can get the books here and sign them, and we'll ship them for you. Like, however many you want. If you want to do a bulk order for some corporation, we got you. We'll send them for you. This one thing now is why? Because this one thing is helping other people with their one thing. And so giants, and I don't know what it is in America or the world about books. Literature still, some kind of way literature is still big. And I don't know, it never went nowhere. Even with social media, literature still. So I made one move that made me an extra $125,000 a pop, plus got me a course, plus got me international, plus has people respecting me in a way. I didn't know, but in literature, New York Times bestseller is like getting a PhD. It's when you say you wrote a book, people are like, oh, you Amazon bestseller? Oh, that's good. Oh, you made on Amazon? You were Barnes and Nobles? Oh, that's great. When you say New York Times bestseller, I don't even have to say LA Times, Wall Street, like those other ones. You don't even have to say USA Today. I don't even talk about those. The New York Times. So I did the one thing. I hit that one pen that went strike. And for those of you who bowl, you know when you get a strike, it's exponential growth. When you hit one pen, they only add. When you get a strike, they actually add 10 more points. So every strike you get, you don't just get the 10 pen points, you get another 10 for what you knocked down because it was a strike. When you knock down one pen, you only get credit for one pen. You one pen at a time. And for those of you who are doing a bunch of stuff, you're not in the exponential. When you start doing the one thing, it's exponential growth. So I just want to encourage y'all. I did one thing by accident. That was videos, and it made me #1 in the world. That was by accident, that we just did one thing. We just put out videos every day. But that one thing made me the best in the world, not because of one video, but exponentially. When you put one up every day, and then you put up 2 every day, and then 3 of the same thing every day, over a matter of time, you become a celebrity. So I just want to encourage y'all. I am a recovering, do too much of her, all every day, all day. But now I'm buying into, so I'm still split. I'm doing a lot, but I'm doing one. But I'm loving the one, and I'm starting to tip over to the one. And I'm starting to tell all of my other addicted friends, I'm not coming to the party no more. I'm not smoking no more. I'm not drinking no more. I'm not coming to the party no more. I'm doing one thing, and I'm going to do one thing well. And I got at least 3, 4 other books that I've been writing. And show y'all one thing. I just hired a group of people from out of the country who speak Spanish, and Honduras speaks Spanish and English, and they're helping me to write my next book in Spanish and English at the same time. And so I'm coming for the one thing, and it's books. That's my new one thing. Why?
I love it.
And only because it's yielding much better returns than when I was doing a whole bunch of stuff at one time.
And the impact is lasting so much longer. Yeah, when you said that, I just grabbed off my shelf Think and Grow Rich, and it's 1937.
It was written in 1937.
And like, we're all reading it still, so yeah.
And how much did you pay for it?
Oh, I don't know. Not much.
But you paid for it.
Yeah, I bought it. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's paying for the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. They giving that out. Powerful speech.
Yes, so interesting.
Powerful speech. Imagine if he had gotten $1 every time we listened to it. Yeah. But people don't pay for speeches. John Maxwell said, but people pay for books.
And they still do. This long. Yeah, gosh, it's interesting. I just want to say this real quick, too, as educators, right? We're listening because I'm learning and taking notes over here personally on how to make this happen. But as educators, we're thinking, what's the one thing that we're going to get that biggest return on investment? You all know what I'm going to say, but I mean it. If we can create readers, the long-term investment is going to be huge. And so when the kids are in our class, English class or any other subject, we have so many things, almost like putting out fires, right? All the little things that you're saying that we have to teach them. But if they are not going to be readers, then it's not going to be this long-term, like lifelong learner situation that we want to create. So that's where I always encourage educators to prioritize. And we're talking about prioritizing. I knew what to do in my classroom. That independent reading, that choice reading, like please prioritize, even if it is 6 minutes, kids having time to read and read things that they're choosing and read things that they enjoy, because it's going to, I had another book on my desk here, Igniting a Passion for Reading, that is so good for educators, but it's going to do that. It's going to ignite passion for reading, which will then make that long-term impact on every content area, help them to be critical thinkers, increase their reading comprehension. So that has, exponential impact, like you're talking about, because they are readers and they're actually going to read what you ask them to.
So let's go with everybody. I'll go next just so I can give you guys time to think about the one thing you want to tell them. Self-efficacy. For me, it's autonomy. It's like if there's one thing I want to teach my kids, how do you learn on your own?
Okay.
How do you not wait on other people? Like, how do you figure it out by yourself? That's what I teach my kids. That's what I try to teach every kid in the classroom. You shouldn't be relying on me as your teacher, because if I'm a great teacher and I'm doing a phenomenal job for you, but I end up getting a heart attack and got to stop coming to school, or I end up dying, you're done. I teach my kids all the time, as long as I'm alive, y'all good. But if I die, are y'all able to live the lifestyle y'all living right now with me being alive? So here's what I need you to do. I need you to learn how to make your own money. I need you to learn how to, Vondale, I didn't even tell you this, but I called Jalen. I was like, Jalen, you have a phenomenal program. He did it for you, Vondale. I said, Jalen, you have a phenomenal program. I said, here's what I need you to do. I need you to call Vondale, and I need you to get as many opportunities to do that as possible, because the more you do it, the more you're going to be. I said, bro, you got a structure. You got to climb. Yep. Like, bro, you got it. You went to college, you went to state. You got that thing organized. You got an assessment to go with it. I'm like, bro, it's powerful. I said, so you need to do it as many times as you can till you get it. I said, then you need to call Vondale and ask Vondale, can you practice your script on him trying to learn how to sell it? I said, because once you learn how to sell it and you learn how to do it to the highest level, every school in America needs what you have. Every youth detention center, every prisoner needs that. I said, but the problem is you're relying on my contact with Vondale to give you a hookup. You got to learn to do it on your own. Teachers, I know you got a job to do and you went to school and you love doing what you do, but if you could teach them how to fly on their own, you could teach them how to fly on their own. Of course, lesson plan them out, read, but if you could teach them how to do it on their own, not only would they learn how to do it on their own, they're going to come and now you're going to have 5 educators in your room. You're going to have 7 educators in your room. You have 30 educators. And that's the one thing I did wrong as an educator and as a human. I'm so good at what I do that I do it for others. And I put people in a position where they never learn how to fly on their own. And my new thing is, hey, E, you got to teach people how to fly on their own. Why? Because one day you are going to die. One day you're not going to be here. Hey, and one day you may not die. You just may not want to show up every day. One day you might just want to take off for 30 days. And you can't right now because they're dependent upon you. And so I'm telling you, if you're an educator, yes, bring up the test scores. Yep, get them babies in college. But more importantly, do the things that will put them in a position. So proud of my baby girl. You know why? I never had to go up to the school for her, and I never had to go to Michigan State when she went to college, ever. She was her own academic advisor. Whatever problems she faced, she figured them out. And so I don't care about her grades. They don't bite. I never hired nobody as a speaker. Vondale, I need you. What was your GPA in college? Right. Nobody. And I didn't even ask Vondale for a transcript. Nobody's asking for that. But what I'm so proud of Jada is she was able to figure it out on her own. And so one of the greatest joys as a father is if I die, I know my baby girl gonna be all right because she has what it takes to do it on her own. And so please put these kids in a position that they can learn how to do it on their own so they can solve every problem that they got to go home to. That's not, because the school life and their home life is oftentimes two different lives.
Yeah.
And so they got to go home and be able to use the stuff in the school, in the classroom. They have to be able to go home and figure out they got to pass the quizzes at home and the test at home to get through life. So don't enable them. Don't be such a good teacher that you become an enabler. And that was my sin, but we correcting that now. Good. Talk to me. I got 3 more people. Give me that one thing you want to leave teachers with.
I'll go. I think teaching them how to have a strong bounce back game, resiliency. It's an invaluable tool, and there are going to be those students in your classes who are going to learn that naturally, maybe because of different traumas and experiences that they have and have to survive and all of that. Then there are going to be those who, they just don't. And if they don't learn that, they can find themselves in positions where, because it's not enough to just be able to read a room. You got to read a room and know how to adjust. And sometimes it means that you got to adjust quickly. And the inability to be able to do that can be an extreme detriment.
I'm going to take this in just a little bit of a different direction. And that's just as a teacher for me. I remember one thing was like, I want to become such a great differentiator so that all the students have access to the curriculum, right? And so especially as a special education teacher, as a co-teacher, like that was the one thing that I was like, I'm going to keep hitting on this, because it is a hard skill to master. And so I just encourage you to think about at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, now moving forward till the end of the year, what is that one thing that you want to keep working on to grow on as a teacher and keep putting the effort into it?
Mine is really simple. It's going back to, what are your priorities? And you can only answer that for yourself. Write it down, type it up, but always reflect on what your priorities are. And that's going to keep you grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say this. Oftentimes we allow all of the noise to change our priorities. Mm-hmm. We let the noise, we let our relationships with
Did we lose him?
His thing is still on.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We'll bring him back in if he pops back in. But so good. I think he's just going to tell us, like, don't let all the other voices tell us what our priorities are. Mm-hmm. So I'm like taking all kinds of notes over here today. I don't know about you guys. I'm going to have to go back and reflect on
the material. Yeah.
So good. All right. Hey, here he is. We'll let him finish his thought.
All right, y'all. Hey, why I sat there and brag on my daughter? She'll keep calling, blowing up the phone. It interrupted you guys. She like, Dad, I need to get some playbooks from next door before you come home. Go get the playbooks.
That's my fault. I sent her there.
Okay. So I'm like, I got you. So, Brandon, as always, summarize, take us away. Man, we love this work, y'all. We want to help you as much as we can. Don't drown. Reach out. Let us help you however we can. All right. Now Let's go.
Let's go.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of The Principal's Office here at Mass Impact, the education podcast. You know what we got to do. We have to review and recap the most impactful points from today's broadcast. Now, this episode was all about one initiative at a time. Teachers everywhere are just nodding their heads. I can probably see you doing it right now. One initiative at a time. Please, just one thing at a time. See, there's so much power in simplicity. There's so much power in being laser focused. If I come into this room here and I flip the light switch, this light, it goes everywhere. It's dispersing in all different directions in the room and it lights up the room, but it's not dangerous. It can't really do a whole lot other than light up the room. But if you go look at a laser and you focus that light all on one exact specific point in the same direction, well, now you can cut through just about anything. That's the power of focus. E.T., of course, used the example of UOU, how he was solely and singularly focused on the book for really most of the last year and all of 2022, and how successful the book has been because of that. By the way, head over to uoubook.com. Tell your friends to do it. Tell everybody to do it. We are on a race to sell 100,000 copies of this thing by the end of the year. We're sitting at around 82,000 right now. We would love your help to hit that 100,000 copies sold milestone. So head over to uoubook.com. But this is just a testament of what can really be possible and what can happen when you are focused and dialed in on one objective. Now, from there, we really dug into how if schools could focus on one thing at a time, then they could really create change and more buy-in. And that buy-in piece is what I think is so impactful, because when you're the type of organization, the type of school, or just the type of teacher or person who is bouncing from thing to thing, from initiative to initiative, from program to program, it makes what you're doing just a little bit less credible. Why? Because, well, as a student, I'm looking at that and saying, well, are you still going to be doing that 2 months from now, 3 months from now? Maybe you will, maybe you won't be. Maybe you won't care about this next semester, but right now it's what you're focused on. But because you aren't solely focused and singularly focused, and you're not consistent in that focus, then maybe I'm not going to take it as seriously. So it creates buy-in. We can get so much more done with that one focus. Last but not least, we talked as an entire team about how if we could just do this across the board in our lives, if we could maintain focus and boundaries and really level up at one thing at a time in our personal lives, how is that going to spill over to what happens in the classroom? How is that going to spill over to what our students learn about the way that we conduct ourselves? How is that going to spill over into how the school as a whole operates based on the example that we set? When we learn to do things in our personal lives, when we lead ourselves first, then we can be leaders of the people around us. Quick example to illustrate this concept of focus. You know, I used to be a gymnast in college. I went to University of Michigan for gymnastics, and I would like to think that I still got it for the most part. And sometimes people will come up to me, especially when I'm in the gym and I'm working out, and they'll say, man, how'd you get your arms so big? Or how did you get this type of physique? Or how'd you end up looking like this? And I always tell them the exact same answer. I say, I went to the gym every single day for 15 years. That's how I did it. There's no magic formula. There's no secret to getting things done, whether it's working out in the gym, teaching in the classroom, building a great culture in your school. I don't care what it is that you're doing. There's no secret. The only secret is consistent and focused effort. You go to the gym every single day for 15 years, even if you do everything wrong, you're still going to get at least some level of results. So until next time, thank you so much for watching Mass Impact. Stay focused.